Shanahan got his rule through. The NFL approved. You can now have a third emergency quarterback that does not count against your active roster. Now, a couple stipulations. Let me just run through this. The third quarterback has to be on your 53-man roster, but in the past, you would make your 6 inactives jump down to 47 for game day. Now, as long as you have that third quarterback, the emergency quarterback, on your 53-man, you can keep him as a reserve. And so you would get, what's that, 48, right? Yeah, 48. Right, is that right? So essentially that's what that is. So my question to you, Rob, what do we call this rule? Is it the Brock Purdy rule? Is it the CMC rule? Is it the Shanahan quarterback? How do we term this? Because every single rule that gets passed is always labeled somebody, the Tuck rule, whatever else. What is this going to be remembered as if this is a rule henceforth in the NFL?
And unless I'm wrong, what's funny about people trying to equate this to the 49ers, and I get it, they're the ones that put it forward again. If you got at a base, you could call it the 49ers rule, the 49ers quarterback rule. But this rule wouldn't even have saved them in that day. Jimmy Garoppolo was on their roster, and he just never recovered to the point. They thought they had a chance to get him back out there to be a backup quarterback. Whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo was physically capable, we'll never know. And he never did. And maybe that was why the front office was so definitive. And no, we're ready to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason because they kept him on that roster. So they had 3 quarterbacks on their active roster at the start of that game. They just really only had 2. So
yeah, I kept saying that whole time, unless Brock is out and it's clearly defined that Jimmy will be the starter, there's no way he's coming back. I just didn't see it. It didn't make sense for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't have made any sense for him to get back out there, especially watching how often the 49ers were giving up pressure to the Eagles. Like, everybody wants to talk about the fact that Brock Purdy getting hurt. And look, quarterback or defense or offensive line gives up pressure and quarterbacks don't get hurt all the time. So the 49ers were still incredibly unlucky there, but they were given up pressure at like an insane rate. So the fact that Brock Purdy got hurt sucks, but they kind of earned it. And then their third quarterback was a guy who couldn't play, but was still on the active roster. And then out comes Josh Johnson, who just signed with who was it?
Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, right. So at least he's still in the NFL. I'm happy for him in that regard. So I don't know. Going back to your point, I guess you could just call it the 49ers rule, the 49ers quarterback rule. I don't want to call it the Brock Purdy rule because it's almost like it's like I feel bad for calling it that. Like, it's not his fault, man. Like, and I'm not even one of those guys that piles on Shanahan for the whole blocking an extremely good pass rusher with a tight end thing, because he did it before. But it's just like, I don't know, man. If we got to call it something, just call it the 49ers rule. Wouldn't have saved the 49ers rule. I don't know.
No, it would not. And they didn't add in anybody. They didn't have another guy. And again, even if Jimmy was activated, that might have been a different story, but whatever. Now, a couple other rules to this, which I thought were interesting. The only way that quarterback can be activated in the game is if the first and second string quarterback are disqualified or injured and ruled out. So it can't be a coach's decision. You can't bench number 1 and then do this. It has to be injuries or disqualification. Now, my question to you, how will this apply to the 49ers in 2023? Because I think that's everybody looks backwards, and I get it, but I think that this has a bigger implication for this season with the 49ers 3 quarterbacks they have rostered. So how do you see this for the 49ers?
To be honest, I don't see that affecting them that much. If you've got Brock Purdy, you've got Sam Darnold, and you've got Trey Lance, aren't they all going to be active unless you've traded one of them and he's no longer on the team? So you can have all 3 of them on your roster, and then one of them has to become that designated third quarterback on game days. So I guess maybe it does. Maybe because it's almost like I'm still kind of grasping the uniqueness of the rule. I mean, it was just
it just passed like
so. I suppose. That it honestly opens you up to a little bit of quarterback drama too, because somebody has to be qualified as that third guy, and you're like, hey, we care about you, but you're the third guy. And are they going to switch back and forth between who's the third guy? Is it going to be the same guy all year? is if the 49ers make Trey Lance that third guy, we're going to have to do 18 podcasts about it. So it's like, but I mean, you won't get to know about it until Brock Purdy comes back. Because then, is Brock Purdy going to be on the active roster, and is he going to be the third guy? Like, but he can't really play, so he can't be the third guy. It's like, dude, you could. And I'm literally live, obviously, spilling all this out of my mouth, and it's like thinking about all the scenarios that can possibly come from this rule in the 49ers. And somebody might go from being the number 1 guy to start the season to the number 3 guy by the end of the season. Man, I don't know. I'm just like literally, I feel like that meme with Galifianakis from with all the numbers. Yeah, Hangover. Like, I'm literally doing that right now in front of y'all. And it's like, dang, this is going to be fun. Like, I feel like we could record an entire podcast just on this rule. Like, and over-under. Hold on. I'm going to set an over-under.
Oh.
5 times we have to talk about this throughout the season.
5. I'm going over.
This rule and who ends up as the third guy, and has someone earned the right to be the second guy? It's like,
okay.
Did you have a MySpace?
I did back in the day.
And you had the top 8. Well, they're gonna be moving guys around like that. I dated myself. I don't care, but it's like they're gonna be like constantly shuffling these around. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'm just having too much fun.
But I think it would be a good problem to have. Like, I know the drama that could be instilled with this and all that things, but
oh, for sure.
If the 49ers get to have the opportunity of having 3 healthy quarterbacks, that would be a wonderful issue. And I know it's going to cause for, whatever. People are going to run with narratives and so-and-so's a bust or dud or whatever, or Kyle hates this guy. I don't really care about that stuff. The idea of having 3 healthy quarterbacks, if that is Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, in any order, I don't give a damn, because that means the 49ers have healthy quarterback options, and I would like that. Juan, what's up, Juan? He says, why don't we acknowledge Reddick injured Purdy? Shanahan schemed to play. Croft missed the block. Purdy pump faked. It's a myriad. It's not
all
one
those
issue.
Things. It's like, my answer to that is yes.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, Juan. You're the best there is.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.